change, just know you're going to go through some uncomfortable situations. Stop trying to dodge the process, because in the long run, it's going to make you better. And don't forget that shit, you heard?
Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Disney just nuked itself from orbit. James O'Keefe, formerly of Project Veritas, but now with O'Keefe Media, OMG, because basically Veritas got filled with boards of directors that wanted him removed because his investigation, his investigatory journalism was hurting people in power, is my personal opinion. But anyway, so he quit and started his own O'Keefe Media Group, and he's gone viral because he's released a video about how Disney now is saying, we are not going to hire males or white males or males that might even be half black, but they don't look black enough. So we're not hiring them. So this isn't just only hurting white dudes. It's also hurting guys that may have, you know, a little bit of cream and a little bit of coffee, but they don't look coffee enough, which basically just goes to tell you, well, it's against men in general. If you don't have the right looks or the right, I don't know, you're not sleeping with the right people or whatever it is. So this is a pretty big deal. And, you know, with Disney hurting itself like this, it doesn't mean the stock's going to fall off a cliff tomorrow. You know, if you look at Chernobyl, if you look at 3 Mile Island, if you look at Fukushima, all of those were nuclear accidents. It didn't destroy the country. It just made that particular area very radioactive. What Disney's doing right now may not be enough to make it go nuclear and have a meltdown and become a company that fails. But what it's doing is it's making itself radioactive. It's becoming the center of a lot of controversy. And many people will say, yeah, but it's bringing them attention and it's putting eyes on them, and that's what they want. But it isn't really, because right now people are having a lot of fun people are getting a lot of enjoyment out of making fun of Disney for the Acolyte and for the MCU, now nicknamed the MCU, and for their other projects that are failing. And then on top of it, they're being sued by Florida, and they're having provisions and special allowances removed by the governor in Florida. And now you have something like this, where this opens such a big can of worms for them, because I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, because Disney in Orlando is such a big deal, you know, a big company, and they've been going head to head. I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't see Ron DeSantis and the Attorney General of Florida suing Disney, saying, we want to find out what's going on. We want discovery. And with discovery, that means that lawyers get to go in and start sniffing around at all the internal documents. And I don't think the governor of Florida is going to settle with Disney out of court. Now, maybe a couple of individuals that feel like they were affected by this might settle, because Disney's like, look, here's $5 million, shut up. And if I was that guy, if I was somebody that's like, here's $5 million, you could shut up, or I could go public to maybe destroy Disney. Me personally, I would destroy Disney. But if I'm, you know, a guy that's a little bit down on his luck and applied for this job and got turned away and said, hey, you know what, $5 million would set me up for the rest of my life, I could see him doing it. I don't see the state of Florida doing that. So this has a lot of really big implications. I'm going to play a little bit of the audio, but then there's other companies that are doing this. And I don't understand why more men are not taking litigation. If these were women, they would be suing the hell out of these companies at the first whiff of any impropriety. I guess men are just like, well, I got to get a job. You know, I'm not litigious. I got other things to do with my life, and they move on. But that's the problem, is by just moving on and not fighting, it allows these companies to get away with a lot of this crap. So for everybody, for all the women or the lefties or whoever out there that say, oh, men have it so good, they're the patriarchy and they control everything and they're not discriminated against. This is irrefutable proof that companies are saying, we're not hiring, we're not even talking to white men, we're not promoting white men. And the brothers, if you don't look black enough, if you're not, sleeping with the right people or coming out as part of the LGHD TV community, well, you're not getting promotions either. I'm going to play this clip, and then I'll read the other stories where other companies are also doing this to men. This is directly from James O'Keefe. He says, breaking, senior vice president at the Walt Disney Company details discriminatory hiring practices. He says, quote, nobody else is going to tell you this, but they're not considering any white males for the job. I'll play the clip here, and then we'll read a little bit more into it.
Certainly, there have been times where, there's no way we're hiring a white male person.
Just kind of unspoken.
There are times when it's spoken, but
How would they say it?
there's no way we're hiring a white male person. They'd say,
Like straight to you? Or, okay.
they'd be very careful how they message that to agents.
Per usual, there's background music on this stuff. And I know I touched on this a little bit in my previous video at the end of it, but that video didn't have nearly as many views as my videos normally do. So I want to push this again because I want to make sure you guys understand what Disney and these other companies are doing, because this is huge. This is really a big deal. When you've got a country that's 50% male and then, 70% Caucasian, 70% white, you're talking about 35% of the population that a company's just saying outright, we're not hiring you, we're not promoting you. That is kind of a big deal.
But as far as Disney's concerned, I'm a white male, and that's not who they're looking to promote at the moment. I've been at the company 11 years now, so I have friends in HR and I have friends in those divisions, and they're like, look, nobody else is going to tell you this, Mike, but they're not considering any white males for the job.
They even passed over a qualified half-black person for a promotion because they didn't look black enough.
We wanted to hire somebody in the department a few years ago now, who was half black, but didn't appear half black. And there was a creative executive who was like, we're not, that's not what's wrong. They wanted somebody in meetings who would appear a certain way, and he wasn't gonna bring that to the meeting. I mean, it kind of feels like we're, at some point there's going to be a lawsuit. That's kind of how it feels, just because of,
Yep, there's going to be a lawsuit, all right. So he's basically coming out and saying, well, he was half black, but he wasn't black enough, and so they wanted somebody that looked black in meetings. I don't know about you, but even if I'm 100% a black dude, 100%, that would piss me off, because it's really saying we don't care how smart you are, we don't care how hard you worked to get where you are, we don't care how educated you are. Do you look the role? We want to put you in this chair to show how diverse we are, and that we appreciate black people. Oh, we don't care what you know. We don't care anything really about you other than you look black. Please sit down and smile and look pretty for the camera. That's the way they make this sound. And even if you're mulatto or half black or whatever, I don't know the correct terminology is for it now, that's not enough for them either. I would be very, very insulted by this if I was a minority. And then this guy, his name's Michael Giordano. Of course, he's put all his social media, he's shut it all down because he's going to get fired, you know that. And it'll be very quiet, and they'll say, look, we'll keep paying you. We'll keep paying you, just shut up. And the reason why they'll keep paying him is because if the news media finds out he got fired after spilling his guts, that's going to look bad on Disney as well. So I'm sure they'll say, look, we'll keep paying your salary. You just got to lay low for a while. And then they'll have him lay low for probably the rest of his career. So he admits, and Michael Giordano sounds probably Italian, but they even said it, well, I'm considered white. But surprisingly, this isn't the first time, and it's not the only time. This is from resourceworkable.com. No white men policy. What you can and can't do in diversity hiring. And I don't want this, I don't want this to sound like I'm angry about this because it's anti-white man. I'm against it because it's anti-man. And let's be honest about it. It's anti-white man, but it's also, you don't look black enough. You're a straight male. We're really looking for the lesbian black women to fill this role, or the guy that walks around in a dress. that's really obvious to be part of the LGHD TV community. We need something a little bit more than, you're a black dude, but you're not oppressed enough. It's the oppression Olympics. We got to go all in on this stuff. Let's be honest, that's kind of where they're going with this stuff. And if you don't believe me, look how in Chicago and in New York and in Los Angeles, you've got black communities coming forward saying, why are you giving people crossing the border illegally and getting bussed up here? Why are you putting them into areas in our communities and you're not helping out the black community? It's happening all over the place. They're saying, why are you treating illegal immigrants from all over the world better than you're treating black people? You're hurting these black communities by doing this. And the government's like, so? We've got people now, we've got new voters. We brought in new voters. We don't need to pander to you anymore. We don't care. That's really kind of what it feels like. And so when they do these politics like this, and they say, well, statistically you're 80% black, but you're pretty light-skinned, and we need somebody that's more of that demo. That's really where this is going. That's why I'm upset. Because it may start with the white men, but then it'll go to the Latino men that don't represent Latino. You don't have an accent. You sound like a white guy. You know how this goes. They say, let me jump down to the main article here. When tasked with DEI strategy in the recruitment business, you're not just a recruiter focused on diversity hiring. You're a mediator balancing the demands of diversity, equity, inclusion, and the ever-present risk of unintentional discrimination. Affirmative action in the United States is now a legally charged topic and requires careful attention in this area. Here's the thing. A recent LinkedIn poll by Hung Lee of Recruiting Brain Food posed an intriguing question to recruiters. Have they ever encountered a no white men policy? The results are eye-opening. They say yes, explicit instruction, 19%. Yes, implicit guidance, 20%. That is 40% basically. And then they say other, please comment. So let's just say 4 points. Other could be half no, half yes. We'll split the number there. That's like 44%, 43% of companies saying, yeah, like either direct instruction or they're hinting at no white dudes. They say, in short, 1 in 5 respondents say they had received explicit instruction for a no white men policy. Another 1 in 5 said they've been implicitly instructed to follow this kind of policy. Guys, do you wonder why you can't get a job? Do you wonder why you can't get ahead? Do you wonder why you can't get promoted? Here's a huge reason why in probably white-collar work. Now, in blue-collar, it doesn't matter. Because I'll tell you right now, over on the work crew that put in my solar, the work crew that cleared my land, the work crew that is carpenters and electricians, and I've had them all. I've had the rainbow of gentlemen's skin color here. And even a couple of women when it came to doing staining and painting and some other things. And they were, and that was a Latino crew, actually more specifically a Chicano crew. They were from Mexico. And they were super friendly and really cool and funny as hell. And they were a family that was a company. It was 2 husbands and 2 wives. And because when I went over and talked to them and stuff, when I went to hire them, they were recommended as a really good crew. And they were. But it's about the skill set, not where they're from, not, the skill set and how much you have to pay them. Really is what it boils down to. And that's how it should be. Someone that's very skilled and very experienced, you're going to pay them more. Someone that's new that may not do that great of a job, but they're cheap as hell, depending on the job, that may need the person. Here they're just saying, like, we don't care. They say when nearly 40% indicate explicit or implicit experience in being discouraged from hiring a specific demographic group, that becomes a conversation we need to have. Obviously, it's more nuanced than a simple yes and no. In the comments that followed, some did call it discrimination, and explicitly so. There are large corporations that are prohibiting white applicants from access to training or promotion Basically, sanctioned discrimination. It's been ongoing for a long time, definitely an issue. And this is something I've talked about for a couple of years now. But yes, this specifically is anti-white, but they do have anti-male as well. And this is from Resume Builder. 1 in 6 hiring managers have been told to stop hiring white men. Same thing. Same kind of thing. 52% believe their company practices reverse discrimination in hiring. There's no such thing as reverse discrimination. Discrimination is not white on black discrimination. And I mean, it is discrimination, but that's not the only type. Black on white or other on white discrimination, that's not the reverse. That's still just discrimination. Here's another article. This is from the APA.org. Male gender bias deters men from some career paths. Men are less likely to seek careers in early education and some other fields traditionally associated with women because of male gender bias in those fields, according to research published by the American Psychological Association. Bias against men in healthcare, early education, domestic heed fields has been documented in prior research, and the current study sought to gauge the impact of that bias. In one experiment with 296 online participants from the U.S., one group read an article accurately describing research that found educators prefer a female elementary school teacher applicant over a male with the same qualifications. Another group read an article that claimed there was equality in early education or early elementary education, and there was a control group that didn't read any article. Men in the group that read about male gender bias anticipated more discrimination in early elementary education and felt less sense of belonging, less positive and less interest in pursuing a career in that field. Female participants weren't affected and reported similar respondents across different groups. They go on and talk about a couple more studies. But we know this is true because now if you look at the percentage of teachers and educators, there's almost no men left. It's something like 85 or 90% are female. Same thing in colleges. And the men that are there are overwhelmingly left or liberal. In some cases, far left. They've removed conservatism. They've removed masculinity. They've removed stoicism, strong men. And the only ones that are left now in the education and in most of, even in some of the medical stuff like nursing and things like that, they're decidedly effeminate. You know, they're men that act more like women than some of the women do. And we know this. And so if you're somebody that says, you know, I like taking care of people, I like helping people, I'd like to be an educator, or I'd like to be a nurse. Maybe I don't want to be a doctor. You know, I don't have that desire or aspiration. And so you shoot a little bit lower and you say, oh, you know, I'll be an educator, or because I like to help people. And I like to be around people because some people are very social, or I want to help people and I just don't feel like being a doctor. Good luck to you. See, they don't talk about this stuff. They never talk about the lack of women in bricklaying, the lack of women in roofing, the lack of women in garbage sanitation, the lack of women in electricians or welders or plumbers or whatever, or septic or whatever. They don't care about that. They're only worried about lack of women in government, lack of women in higher role positions, lack of women in white-collar, air-conditioned, powerful positions, because it's not really about being equal. They only want to be equal or ahead in the top areas of everything, the cream of the crop. They don't want equality. And so it becomes a very, very big deal when men are actually suffering and we're not allowed to talk to it because we're told just shut up. I don't know how many employees Disney has, but between the theme parks and everything that they have in both California and Florida, that's a pretty large number of people. And Reddit, I'll finish it with this. Reddit is a very left-wing site now. And this was posted from 11 hours ago. When I was doing a web search for the article, I just saw this posted up on Reddit. I said, oh, interesting. I wonder what Reddit has to say, because I know Reddit is viscerally, ferally left-wing. And somebody posted, senior vice president at Disney tells OKeefe Media Group there's no way we're hiring a white male. And they say, sorry, this post has been removed by the moderators of our television. And in here, there's a couple of people that are having arguments. And many of the people in here, the posts that are allowed to stay, basically say, oh, well, James OKeefe he's been known to heavily edit his video. If you've ever seen his 20-minute long videos, he's at James OKeefe III, which is James OKeefe III. He's got 20 minutes of this dude just chatting right along. And he tells it to two different women on two different dates. You know, we're entering that time where it's not just okay to shut up anymore. It's not okay to say, I don't feel this is right, but you know, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I'm just going to move on. Because you might be good. You might be fine. And if you're, again, a strong, stoic male that handles adversity well, yeah, you're going to be fine. But what about the next guy? What about if it's a younger person, like a younger guy, that's just trying to get his feet wet or get into the business? And you know something's funky, but you walk away because you go, I'm not going to deal with that. And then this young guy comes in. Maybe that young guy suffers. I think we're going to need to start pushing back on stuff. You know, I put on my profile recently, there's a place called Tractor Supply. And if you're not familiar with Tractor Supply, it's a business that has, well, things for a farm, basically. You know, they have farm supplies and they have stuff for your garage and they have things for around the house like generators. And, you know, it's kind of a Home Depot, but without focusing on house, more focusing on like a co-op farmer's market, right? Tractor Supply, Robbie Starbuck came out and exposed them. And here you've got one of the most conservative brands that was made right here in Tennessee, and they're full on DEI. They're full on giving money to organizations that are removing body parts on young people under the age of 18 that are funding this stuff. And there's a point where I say, you know what? I'm not going to shop at Tractor Supply anymore. But I'm also going to start sharing tweets about it, which I did. And it got 878 views. And then I'm mentioning it to you guys because there's probably going to be 80,000 or 100,000 people that watch it. Now, many of you may be overseas and you say, oh, I don't have that company around here. Or maybe you're in the U.S. and you say, well, I don't know, Tractor Supply. But you know what? If I can stop 5 or 10 people from shopping there, good. I feel better about that. I think we need to give our money to companies that support our principles. We really need to be careful about that. There's so many things I've given up on. I really have. You know, I've talked about this before more on Just Locals. I like Coke. I don't drink Coke anymore because they had the Be Less White campaign to their employees a couple years ago. I stopped drinking them. You know, let's see. I won't even go through all the brands. There's a ton of stuff. I don't keep a list, but I keep a pretty good list in my head. And when I hear I love Oreo cookies. I'm out on Oreo cookies. My waistline will thank me for that. But I just remember when I hear something, I say, okay. And it's not like I'm getting fed 80,000 things at once. If I see a news story, I can remember Tractor Supply not to go there. I know not to go to, you know, XYZ places. We're going to have to start taking our money away from Disney and taking our money away from these places. And many of us already have. I hope Disney gets punished for this. I hope that they get the door slammed in their face so hard and that they have so many legal troubles that other companies say, oh my God, if this happens to us, we're going to get wrecked. Because Disney's way bigger and they have a lot more cash flow than we do. If this happens to us, we're going to get wrecked. Because last year, Target got the pushback. Last year, Bud Light got the pushback. And guess what? This month, the LGHD TV month, things were much more muted than normal. Things are much quieter on the pride front. Well, if we slam them again, and we just got to keep slamming the door in their faces, slam it on their hands, break their fingers. If we can keep doing this, we're going to force them to change this direction by voting with our dollars. We have to. It is our moral imperative to do so if we want a society that is not insane. It is our moral duty. And this is the least we can do. We're not picking up muskets and marching at the crack of dawn where we might get our leg blown off and die from, septic shock or something or other. We're just saying, I really like this product, but they have the wrong message. And now I can't buy their product anymore. Until they come out and change their direction, they publicly apologize. Until that happens, that's just a brand that and it's going to make shopping hard, and sometimes you're going to miss out on things. But, how easy is that to do, honestly? It's pretty easy, I think. Guys, if you like my work, please support me. Jump over to betterbachelor.locals.com. Join us over here. We talk about lots of great stuff, things that I can't share on YouTube, things that don't get much traction because Big Mama YouTube silences me and shuts me down. So jump on over there, become part of the community. $5 a month. You're supporting me to do the job that I love, which is sharing stories with you guys and hanging out and discussing things. And I'd really appreciate it if you do. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. We'll see you in the next one.